On the morning of January 26, 2021, a maintenance crew in San Antonio, Texas, was called to force open an apartment door. The family of 34-year-old Martell Derouin had been trying to reach him for days. His car was in the garage. His phone went unanswered. His door was locked and deadbolted from the inside. As the crew worked to push their way through, they noticed something that stopped every one of them cold. A small, clean hole in the door, near the peephole, near the knocker. A bullet hole, made from the outside. When they finally forced their way in, Martell was just on the other side of the door, collapsed on the floor. A single gunshot wound to the head. He had been there for 3 days. The towers off of La Cantera Parkway was a newly built luxury complex, the kind of address that signals arrival. Clean lines, high ceilings, the quiet hum of air conditioning in well-insulated hallways. Not the kind of place where you expect to find a man dead behind a dead-bolted door with a bullet in his head. But that is exactly what San Antonio PD found. Martell Derouin was 34 years old, a military veteran who had served 6 years in the Air Force as a decorated sergeant in Air Force intelligence, working with some of the military's most sensitive and classified information. After leaving the service, he had pursued what he loved, music. He rapped under the name Cardone, had recently signed with a Sony-affiliated label, and ran his own recording studio where he helped develop upcoming talent across San Antonio. He was known universally as humble, as someone who never chased clout or leveraged connections, even connections most people would have used in a heartbeat. Martell was a cousin of Beyoncé through his grandmother. He never mentioned it. We just have to put it in his bio because it's worthy to put in there, but he doesn't like stuff like that. Inside his apartment, investigators began assembling the story of his last night. Broken dishes shattered across the kitchen floor, sheets torn from the mattress and twisted into a pile, a dog tag, a broken acrylic nail likely pulled from a hand during a struggle. The bed frame had come apart, the headboard torn from the rest of the frame. A basket knocked to the floor held cartridges, but no gun. In the closet, a pistol case, empty. Martell's gun was gone. Beyond the destruction, investigators found signs of a second person. By the window, an easel with a partially completed painting, abandoned mid-stroke. 2 pairs of shoes on the floor surrounded by painting supplies. 2 glasses of Hennessy left unfinished. A large purse on a chair. An iPad on a footstool. And finally, 2 debit cards. Same name on both. Sasha Scar. Before we go any further, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed yet, hit that button right now, because what this investigation uncovered in the days after Martell's body was found is the reason this case stopped me cold. A 911 call, a doorbell camera, and an identity that didn't belong to the woman who used it. Stay with me. 21-year-old Sasha Scar was an aspiring songwriter and vocalist. She lived in Austin with her mother, freelanced as a graphic designer, and had been trying to break into the music industry for years. According to Martell's estranged wife, Joya, the two had first met in 2016 at the shoot for one of Martell's music videos. Sasha was 17 at the time, doing some modeling. Martell offered to help with her music career. Years later, after Martell and Joya separated, he and Sasha became romantically involved. After Martell's death, Sasha was nowhere to be found. Her photo was distributed in the media. Friends posted to her Instagram account, "Turn yourself in." It was not the first time Sasha Scar had been sought by law enforcement. In December 2019, just over a year before Martell's murder, Austin police responded to a shooting on North Lamar Boulevard at 1 a.m. At the scene, they found 21-year-old Sasha Scar. She told officers that she and her boyfriend Andrew Bass had gone to meet someone to buy marijuana. Andrew had been shot in the chest. Emergency medics performed CPR. He was declared dead at the scene. Sasha told police Andrew had set up the meeting, but investigators found messages on the victim's phone between him and Sasha, making clear that she had arranged everything. Their assessment? Sasha and her boyfriend had gone to rob the cellar. When they attempted it, Andrew was killed and the other man seriously injured. Sasha had fled the scene with the gun. She faced a charge of aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. She was released on bond in March 2020. 10 months later, Martell Derouin was dead, and Sasha Scar was missing again. While investigators were building a picture of who Sasha was, they were also building a picture of what happened on the night of January 22, 2021. And two pieces of evidence would prove more important than anything else in the entire case. The first was a phone call. Reviewing emergency calls from the night of Martell's death, investigators found a 911 call placed by a woman at the towers, locked out of her unit, concerned about a hole in a door. The woman was gone by the time officers arrived, but on the call she had given a name: Joya DeRouen, Martell's estranged wife.
911, this is Brett. Do you need police, fire, or EMS?
I need police now.
What address?
It's 16735 O'Connor Road. Not O'Connor, Rockington Parkway.
16735?
Yes.
Okay, and this is the Towers?
Yes.
Okay, and your name?
My name is Joya DeRouen.
Okay, what's going on?
I'm trying to get in my apartment, but I'm not able to get in. I'm just not able to get in, and I think my husband is injured.
Your husband's hurt?
Yes.
Do you hear him?
No, he's not responding, and I called him. He's just not responding. And there's a hole in his door, and I don't know what's going on, honestly.
There's a hole in the door?
Yes.
Okay, where are you now?
I'm at the same address.
Are you outside the apartment, or where are you?
I'm outside the door, and I cannot get in.
And you don't have a key?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Do you live there?
Yes, I do.
And what is your name?
My name's Joya DeRouen.
Spell the first name?
Joya, Joia.
And your husband's name?
Martell
Last name?
Derouin, Deroun.
All right, and it's apartment 1605?
Yes.
All right, we'll get an officer over there.
When investigators played this recording for the real Joya DeRouen, she identified it immediately, and she began pointing out everything that was wrong with it. The caller had also given the wrong address initially, accidentally providing the street where she used to live, and she gave an incorrect callback number, apparently unaware that 911 could trace the line being used. The real Joya DeRouen had not placed that call. Someone had used her identity to report her husband's shooting while pretending not to know what had happened. The second piece of evidence was a doorbell camera. An apartment just down the hallway from Martell's unit, facing directly into the corridor, had captured footage from the night of January 22nd. At around 9 p.m., it recorded a young woman moving through the hallway. She was barefoot. She wore a long green sundress. In her left hand, a cell phone. In her right hand, a pistol. That same night, a new resident named Caroline had been waiting for a DoorDash delivery. Hearing knocking in the hallway, she opened her door, expecting her food. Instead, she found a woman in her 20s in a long green sundress, banging on the door of the apartment across the hall. When police later asked Caroline to look at Joya DeRouen, standing outside the building in shock, and confirm whether that was the woman she had seen that night, Caroline's answer was immediate. No, Joya DeRouen was definitely not the woman she saw. Martell's estranged wife deserves more than a footnote in this story. Joya had married Martell in 2007. By the time of his death, they had been separated for roughly 2 years, living in separate apartments just miles apart, renting out the house they had owned together. But they remained close. They spent time together every week. On the morning his body was found, Joya had driven to the towers after speaking with Martell's parents. She had called, texted, emailed. No response. So she drove over. She was outside, in shock, waiting for information, while somewhere nearby, a woman who had used her name on a 911 call was already gone. In February 2021, after her photo was distributed in the media, Sasha Scar turned herself in to San Antonio police. 2 years later, she stood trial for first-degree murder. The prosecution's argument was methodical and precise. Sasha and Martell had argued violently inside the apartment that night. She left, barefoot, carrying his gun. She returned to the door, she raised the weapon, she fired through the door at the precise location where she knew Martell was standing, directly beside the peephole, directly in line with the knocker. The bullet traveled through the door and into his head. After firing, the prosecution argued, Sasha knew she had hit him. That was why she placed the 911 call, not to get help, but to cover her tracks, using Joya's identity to distance herself from what she had done. She used a dead man's wife's name on a 911 call. A doorbell camera caught her in the hallway with his gun, and now she was standing in front of a jury about to tell them her version of events. If this case has your jaw on the floor, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a case on this channel. What she said on that stand is something I won't forget. Stay with me. Sasha's defense team held their opening statement until the prosecution finished presenting its case. When they finally addressed the jury, they made a promise. They would call a single witness, the only one who could explain the why behind everything the jury had seen. That witness was Sasha Scar herself. She told the jury she had met Martell years earlier. He had presented himself to her as a 24-year-old rapper. He must have been at least 30. Years later, they reconnected as friends, eventually becoming romantically involved in the months before his death. On the night of January 22nd, Martell had driven her from Austin to his San Antonio apartment, as he did 2 or 3 times a week. She began working on a painting intended to promote his upcoming performance. He worked on music.
She
They
took a
made
short
dinner,
video of
they
her
watched a
ceiling,
movie.
which recorded
Then
some
Sasha
of the
took a
yelling and
FaceTime
items
call
breaking.
from a
The
photographer
noise
she was
loud
hoping to
enough
collaborate
permeate
with.
through the floor
She used
and
the
into
iPad
her
in the
home.
kitchen.
The
Martell
woman was
sat on the
long gone
couch
by the
within
time the
earshot.
officers responded
She
to the
claims the
building.
call made him jealous, angry. The argument that followed turned physical. He deserved better. Subscribe and hit the bell. Every view, every share, every comment is a refusal to let him be forgotten. Thank you for watching. Martell Derouin is remembered as a loving family man, a decorated Air Force veteran, and a gifted musician who never lost his humility. Remember his name.